Please, could you give a huge welcome to Peter Espersen, who's the global head of co-creation at LEGO, who's going to explain the miraculous changes in fortunes for a fantastic brand from the days when it was struggling to now when all of our children are talking about a certain movie and a certain brand that is really working out how to understand content and also amazing, impressive distribution. One of the guys responsible for it is about to jump on our stage now. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, Peter Espersen.
Good luck. Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you. Well, I will be talking for the next about 30 minutes. I have 84 slides, so you all fall asleep, about LEGO's secret to building your fan base brick by brick. So off we go. This is kind of a bit of the numbers. As you all know, LEGO had some challenges back in 2003, 4, 5, but we've managed to have double-digit growth since then, so that is very, very pleasing. We've grown to more than double the number of employees since I joined in January 2010, and we're sold in more than 130 countries. So now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at what some of these fans I work with can do. I don't know how fast you can solve a Rubik's Cube, but I dare you to try and compete with these gentlemen. This is the Cube Stormer, and they won its Guinness record for solving the Rubik's Cube in 3.25 seconds about a couple of weeks ago. These guys have been working on it for many years, but after we launched the new Mindstorm ZB3 in January 2013, it's actually been possible for these guys to create it bigger, better, and faster. So that is the pleasure I have. Just to tell you a bit of, take you a bit of background, I've taken these two quotes from the CEO. First of all, the thing that inspired me the most when I joined was, that our CEO, Jörn, said, "We want to be entirely driven by people who love the brand." It means he would rather be a lot for a few than a little bit for the many. And that was something I really took to heart. And of course, he talks about something called an AFOL. An AFOL is an adult fan of LEGO, and that's what I work with. Yes, I don't work as much with the kids, but I work with a 13-plus people, or age group 13-plus, that love LEGO for what LEGO is. So I don't know if there's anybody who loves LEGO for what LEGO is in here, just if I can see a raise of hands. There's a few, good. So I'm not talking for deaf ears. So let's start talking about LEGO and social objects. Social objects is what I call the things, the small videos, the clips, the apps, the small string texts, the tweets, and so on, that our fans around the world share. LEGO has been very, very successful in this area, not because of what we are, but because of our product. But let's take a look at a social object. One thing is here is about 20 kilometers from here in a small city, you would see a project started by Dutch artist Jan Voorman, which is called Dispatch Work. It's an art project where he goes around to different cities around the world and fill in the cracks in walls with LEGO bricks. This is something that we didn't know of before we saw it on the web. And this is extremely exciting and what our fans can do, and it generates a tremendous PR pressure. But I just wanted to show you this one because someone at a festival like this simply have to show this. It is about what happens on the web in a single minute. And I know there's a lot of agencies, a lot of clients, and just take a look at the sheer numbers. I did a back-of-the-napkin calculation last night after dinner, and if you want eyeballs on just the videos that happens in a minute, you would need to hire 2,420 people that need to sit round the clock, 360 days a year, and just look at the videos uploaded every minute. So you're not going to do that, right? But how are you going to penetrate all the noise here? When everybody's communicating, everybody's their own broadcaster, something needs to happen. And I'll just take you to a small detour with a couple other brands before I get back to LEGO. So I don't know if any of you guys remember back in 2004 and 2005 when somebody figured out if you put Mentos down in a Diet Coke, it would create this fontaine-like effect and spray all over the place. That was really exciting, but what in fact happened when people start sharing this stuff? The key reason for this was, of course, it was fun and it was great and it was exciting, but it gave people's tools to express themselves. And that is what LEGO is. LEGO is a medium of creativity. It allows you to build your own stories, create your own tales, and share them. And that is why we're so successful in this area. So without further ado, I've promised the guys down at who I sent my presentation to show this, and I'll give it as much as it can. So some of you guys know him as Mr. Stevens, some as Jeff Vader. We just call him Darth Vader.
But there must have been a Death Star canteen, yeah? There must have been a cafeteria downstairs, in between battles, where Darth Vader could just chill and go down. I will have the penne alla arrabbiata. You'll need a tray. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? This is not a game of who the f*** are you. For I am Vader. Darth Vader. Lord Vader. I can kill you with a single thought. But you'll still need a tray. No, I will not need a tray. I do not need a tray to kill you. I can kill you without a tray, with the power of the Force, which is strong within me. Even though I could kill you with a tray if I so wished. For I would hack at your neck with the thin bit until the blood flowed across the canteen floor. Now, the food is hot. You'll need a tray to put the food on. Oh, I see the food is hot. I'm sorry. I did not realize. Oh, tray for the... Yes. I thought you were challenging me to the fight to the death. Fight to the death? This is a canteen. I work here. Yes, but I am Vader. I am Lord Vader. Everyone challenges me to a fight to the death. Lord Vader, Darth Vader. I'm Darth Vader. Sir Lord Vader. Sir Lord Darth Vader. Lord Vader of Cheam. Sir Lord Baron von Vaderham. The Death Star. I run the Death Star. What's the Death Star? This is the Death Star. You're in the Death Star. I run this star. This is a star. This is a star. I run it. I'm your boss. You're Mr. Stevens.
So that was Mr. Stevens for you. But this is a video that's seen more than 21 million times on YouTube, and I can guarantee at least 500 of them are me. The interesting thing with this is that it actually has more views on YouTube than the actual video where Eddie Izzard, who's the guy who's, auditing this, where he's telling the real story in a stand-up show. So this has given a user the opportunity to take Eddie Izzard's voice and illustrate it with Lego bricks, and this just created a tremendous social object. So one of the things that I've been very curious about is that it seems like Lego fans are now crossing over into mainstream. They've been out on their little websites. They weren't that much on Facebook. They had their own place called Lugnet they developed in 1999 all by themselves. They didn't use Flickr as much back in the day. They used another thing they created themselves. But if you look at the new, the saga of the first, not the first, the 4, 5, and 6 of the Star Wars in the Blu-ray edition, this video you just saw was included as extra material, which is nice, But the thing that really triggered me was, you'll see on the bottom right here for you, is the Engadget article on this specific release, because it's not talking that much about the Star Wars movies, it's talking about this video. So that was kind of a thing, are they crossing over into mainstream? Or you could maybe argue that mainstream might be crossing over to them. Because this is some of the people that I've seen, come out of the closet and announce their Lego fandom while I've been at the company. And it's, it's everything from David Beckham over Fergie to Kim Kardashian and James May from Top Gear. And even the world's most powerful man, no, it's not Mark Zuckerberg, it's Barack Obama, used to build some pretty mean Lego towers when he was a kid. And I can tell you, one of the really interesting things about David Beckham, who just keeps talking about Lego like there's no tomorrow, when he went on I think it was an Intel and Yahoo podcast and was asked the question, so what do you want to do if you're not a footballer? He said he wanted to be a Lego builder. And the interviewer kept trying to drag him into drawing and architecture and things like this, and he kept rambling on about Lego. And there was a reason for that, because he told that he's just built the Lego Taj Mahal. And what all of us who really are immersed in Lego know, that is the biggest Lego set ever. It has more than 5,000 pieces. It's a massive thing that takes days to build. And of course, after he said that, sales of the Taj Mahal that you can see on the bottom right here rose more than 600% in sales day on day. So it's pretty powerful stuff, and it can move boxes, this stuff here. And the last thing he said he was building was the Tower Bridge, which is also a massive set. So this is also, in my investigation into this, one of the interesting areas is the relation around fans, brands, and bricks. And this is a slide from Al Munitz and Nguyen back from 2001. And it frames the relationship that a brand and a company can have with its users or its fans. So here you would see the company, which is, in this case would be the Lego Group. It can control the relations it has with the users out there. And that kind of can consist some of the brand and maybe the trademark and so on. But there's also a lot of communication going on between the users, and that also frames the brand. So what we've kind of came to realize is there's a difference between the trademark and the brand. The trademark, that's like a signature. So if you copy that, then we'll release the hounds and the lawyers will chase you down. But the brand is much more like a flag of a nation. And you can even say, I would argue that the brand needs to exist in the mind of the consumer. And if it doesn't exist there, does it really have any value? I think that's really something puzzling you can think about. So this is one of the things that I've come to realize. So I'll take you back. This is back to, I think, March 2010. And that was before I got so immersed in Lego's fan culture that and learned how to swim. So this is my first lesson. We got a letter into corporate communication. And it's in French. It basically says, "Dear Lego, I have this French Facebook community. It's called It Hurts Like Blank When I Step on Lego Bricks. You've caused us all this pain through all these years, and we'd like an apology. And by the way, we're 347,000 people strong and counting." So that was kind of a golden opportunity. And I said, I need to do something. And then this is basically what we did.
I'd really like to apologize on behalf of the Lego Group for all the pain we've caused you during the past 52 years when you stepped on Lego bricks with your bare feet, wandering through a dark room at night because your kids played with the Lego bricks the day before. We do hope, however, that you had great fun together with your kids playing with the Lego bricks. And we sincerely hope so, because this year we'll turn out another 29 billion Lego bricks, which will probably flood your floors too. However, we have found this great new solution on how you can avoid being hurt.
And now you will see my 15 seconds of fame on the right here. So that's, of course, how we walk around at the office. Yeah, so the thing that happened with this, we put this video out, and I went home and I sat and watched a page that's called Most Tweeted Brands, and we were skyrocketing up. We're overtaking Nike and Heineken, and we're not there with Starbucks and Coke. And I thought, I'm going to be the new grumpy cat. I'll be all over the internet, and I'll write a book, and I'll be famous. The challenge were that then I started looking into what the users were actually looking at, and they weren't looking at me. They were looking at this. There was apparently a guy who at the same time built a printer out of Lego bricks, a felt tip pen, and a couple of rubber bands. He put that on video. It had major overflow into Wired, the Daily Telegraph, and I got maybe 50,000 views on combined platforms in that period, and he got more than 2 million. So he basically stole my mojo. And that led me to discover it's a lot more interesting what people who love and do it for no apparent reason other than loving the brand do, than a guy like me who'd basically sell my grandmother if you buy some Lego bricks, right? So I'm going to frame now 2 other areas that was very apparent when I joined. And it's called, one is the idea tyranny, or tyranny of ideas, and the other is the Lego ecosystem. So first thing is the idea tyranny. This is why I don't tell people what I do if I get on a plane. Because the first thing I'll say, "Oh, you work for Lego. I have this great idea. Why don't you?" And then insert some kind of idea. And to tell you the sheer magnitude of ideas, if you go to our customer service department, that's the people who take the phones and get email and get letters, we get more than 20,000 unsolicited ideas a year. That means 2 ideas every hour, every day, every day of the year. And that's just simply too much. So it's a positive problem that people want to engage, but how should we do this in a meaningful way? That's one of the challenges. And back in the day, we just did this. We sent them an email letter sent by a person who didn't exist, and we basically said, "We're investing money in product development ourselves, so we can't take your ideas." That's probably not the right way to do in this Web 2.0 or 3.0 age or social. The second thing is, basically, today we see ourselves more as a company in a big ecosystem. This is an ecosystem that creates value by the brand, but also by the users. Back in the day, in the 4P model, you would see a company that creates some product, we sell it to some consumer, and then there's value destruction, and then you get money back. Basically, we see it much more as a give and take relationship today. I have knowledge of at least a couple of hundred people who work inside the Lego ecosystem with their own products, and they're makers, and they push boundaries. They do amazing things. They sell their own sets on eBay. and they fill out all the holes where Lego don't go. A lot of you guys probably know that Lego, we don't do war and stuff like that. We do conflict play, and that's because it's part of our values. But that means there's niche here where the users can actually make their own things, like brick arms up there. And I even heard last year at South by Southwest that the CEO of MakerBot said, if we need some Lego bricks, we can print them ourselves. I would say that's probably in a distant future, but let's not discuss that further here. So all this value creation happens in and out of the Lego communities. We're currently in contact with 200 independent user communities around the world. They're spread like this, and we see a great resurgence in Asia, a lot of users there, and that's of course something we try to work with through digital initiatives and offline initiatives as well. So now I've talked about the idea tyranny and all the social objects and value creating ecosystem. So what is the stuff I set out to do when I joined? Well, first thing is trying to understand these people. And back in the day, it was about listening to the consumer. That's one thing, but the key thing is first getting your quantitative data right, and then doing what you would see our owner or a CEO on the far right of this picture here. They go out and interact with your fans. They talk with them, they discuss with them, they listen to them, and they exchange ideas. That is really the cornerstone of this stuff here. And it's very fun when talking with branding people and marketing people, because a lot of them are actually afraid of their consumers, specifically the high engagement ones. They fear the deep and heavy user. They're kind of a little bit weird and geeks and so on. Yeah, well, congratulations. They're very, very valuable for you. And that is the first thing, understand. Second thing is tapping into this value creating ecosystem and all these ideas. And this is something we did through the project called Lego Kuso. Kuso means wish in Japanese, and it's basically a crowdsourcing platform. It is solving the tyranny of ideas. Because with crowdsourcing comes crowd control. You need to let the community do the heavy lifting. So this platform works that if you come up and say, you have an idea, great, make a prototype, frame it, sketch it, tell us exactly what it is. And if you can get 10,000 people to support it, then we'll review it for production. And you'll even get 1% of net sales. And that's happened a couple of times. But really surprising things happen. If you look at the bottom right here, you will see the first thing that came out of the Lego Kuso platform. It was during our trial in Japan, and it looked like a cut-over whale with an orange hat. It is the Shinkai 6500, a deep-sea exploration vessel. So the thing that even if we gathered all the people in this room and all the Lego employees, we would never have figured out that this would be the first thing to come out of the platform. And the next one was also a Japanese project, and all of a sudden, the website crashed 3 times, and Minecraft hit 10,000. And that was the beginning of something big, where we really saw that, if you combine Lego and some other strong community, then you have rocket fuel or nitroglycerin. It will really take off. And we've put out, I think, 5 or 6 products now, among them Back to the Future and the Mars Curiosity rover. And now that we had Dr. Nordberg on later, we've actually had a project for review that was a CERN Hadron Collider. And of course, the Lego fans, I just put this in earlier, have built a big one, almost 10,000 bricks of the Large Hadron Collider. So, if he needs to know anything about how that works, he can come talk to the fans. The third thing is amplification. Because think about when there is about 15 million pieces of user-generated content out there, and users are sharing and building and creating and doing things, why not amplify the best stuff? And that is what we do through the Rebrick platform. It is about amplifying the best of the Lego web. And why not just do that on Facebook or Flickr? Well, guess what? There's twice the amount of Lego pictures on a place called Brickshelf that probably none of you have ever been to than on Flickr. So that is why we need to create a platform where you create this dynamic window where you can peer through and see, the Lego web and the Lego world as we see it. And that is very exciting. And we've also used this to crowdsource interesting content. And now we've talked a little bit about the Lego movie. Actually, a couple of seconds of that, or around 4 or 5, I think, is co-created with the Lego fans. It was the directors who called us up and said, guys, you need to do this, and we love the Lego fans, we're very inspired by them, but why not create a little area of it where it's actually user-developed? And that, the fans co-created more than 100 30-second clips that could go into the movie, and 5 of them were actually used in the movie in shorter or longer forms. And this, this competition we ran last year, up until November 1st, which is 3 months before the movie actually came out, it had already hit 55 million eyeballs. So that is pretty good. And further, the production team requested 2 other crowdsourcing initiatives based on this. But I'll just show you part of what is in the movie. This is where, for you who haven't seen the movie, the evil president business with his big cragalizer who's about to try and, glue the whole world together so you can't assemble and disassemble. He's about to confront all the master builders who create these amazing vehicles where they tear down a Lego building and then they build some kind of a vessel or vehicle. And this is what you would see, and it's called Georgie Wants a Horse, and it was the one that is actually in the movie. This is pretty high production value. That's what these people can do. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a perspective of what is the obstacles that we as a company, or me in particular, had to overcome when trying to tap into all this fan creativity and fan passion. Well, the first thing, I'll take you on a little detour and then I'll get back to it. When Columbus first came to Hispaniola, he came in these big ships and he sailed around the outsides of the island, and he looked in on the beach and he could actually see the natives in there, or so the story goes. But the thing that confused Columbus was that the natives didn't really interact with him. They didn't row out in a boat. They acted as if he wasn't there. So when he got in the smaller boats and finally came ashore, the natives came and greeted him. So the thing that natives have is something called perceptual blindness. And it basically means what you don't understand, you can't see. And that is to some degree right when you talk about fan communities, because they're like seen as, oh, they're nerds and what can they do and are they really valuable? These guys are tremendously valuable. Their top 5 videos on YouTube have more than 100,000 views. So they are powerful. And that's something when you go home from this, I hope it's one of the things you can bring home and maybe think about. Are you affected by perceptual blindness? Is there things you don't understand and therefore can't see? That's really something to think about. The second thing, and now it gets even more, scary, at least for marketeers. This is a story that's very much inspired by a guy called Carl Weick from the University of Chicago. He's a psychologist, an economist by training, and what he was wondering, he talks a lot about what's called sense-making, and that is how you make sense of things. And one of his examples is about wilderness firefighters, because apparently with these wilderness firefighters, there's a lot of deaths around the US, and the reason for this is that they are out fighting the fires and they have all these tools, and all of a sudden they're encircled by fire. And they have to drop their tools to actually outrun the fire. The problem is these tools are something they're bound to. It's almost, they have inscriptions. They've given them names. They're called Old Faithful and Johnny Mitchell after a deceased firefighter. So their rakes and axes and chainsaws are what constitutes them as firefighters. So they're very reluctant to actually let go of it, because they will, of course, admit they're scared, but it will also threaten what they actually are, firefighters. And I can argue that I think some brands can be seen as these firefighters standing, and they can see the fire spreading in this, social world, or, kind of attention economy where attention is a scarce resource. And they're reluctant to drop their measuring tools, their 4P models, their AIDA models, and so on, their PR stuff, because, if they drop it, are they actually marketeers? And it's something, that I've had to try and challenge myself with. I'm an old agency guy from way back, and also my colleagues. Do we have the right tools, or do we need to drop the ones we have and invent new ones, and at least move out of the way of the fire? So, what does it take? First of all, don't fear the people who love you the most. It's like you love your wife, and that's the person who loves you the most. It's the same with the fans, right? Release control. It can be a little bit scary, but it's also necessary. And also drop your tools and make new ones that make sense in the reality you're actually in. And of course, I see it very much as this George Bernard Shaw thing. It's about ideas and apples. It works like this. If I share an apple with you and you share an apple back, then we both end up with one apple. But if it's ideas and thoughts we share, then we both come out of the equation smarter. And when you embark on this journey, it's very inspiring to see what people can do with your brand. And behind me, you see 2 Canadian teenagers who started a hot air balloon and sent it actually up into the stratosphere. So when you go on this voyage, I don't really think the sky's the limit. I'm about there. I'm at Virtual Peter on Twitter. Thank you, and remember that besides that Darth Vader sucks, there's a very quote that's always been very close to me. And it's a story from when I was a kid. I was out walking with my grandfather, and I saw this big graffiti piece on the wall. And it said something I was kind of just learning to read, and I really couldn't understand it. So I asked my grandfather, what does it say? And it said the thing I'll show you in a second. I asked him, is it true? And he said, I think so. And this is what it said. Grown-ups are children that's gone insane. So thank you so much. That was what I had for you today.
Question.
I'd be happy to do that.
I'm intrigued by how Lego is positioning itself for the era of 3D printing, which, as we've heard this morning, is indeed upon us. What happens when kids can print their own bricks?
Well, that's going to be exciting. Then we're going to have to figure out how to work with that. I think, if you look at what, I'll take you on a little tour and then I'll get back to it, Charlie. If you look at what leading scholars say about the success of Lego, it was built on 4 foundations after a big crisis. One thing is the brand, the other is the community, which I've been talking about. It is system and play, and the final one is the ability to create the brick. It's actually a bit more difficult than you think. And it is also, if you go out and try, other building systems, it is the clutch power, the ability of the brick to actually stick together that's a bit more difficult. But, we're following it closely, and, we welcome fair opportunity, or fair competition.
Okay, and the film, it's taken, over $200 million at the box office. We all talk in this industry about it's great to create content that actually you can earn money from rather than just buying ads. Great piece of intellectual property. What was the insight behind it, and are there any plans for a sequel?
I think there are going to be a sequel. And I think some of it, what it's going to be about, I don't know. And if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. But I think it's as I understand it, it's the idea of making a movie about Lego was something that even predates before I joined the company. And it is... But I think it took so long time for us to get it because we wanted to get it right, and it needs to be as awesome as it actually is. So that's kind of a bit of insights, and it's even a little bit mind-boggling to me that we got it so right because it's awesome, as you probably know.
And just a final question. We hear a lot about this wonderful stuff about co-creation, social media, all the different platforms you have, and conferences like ours are often criticized for leading on and talking about the small innovations, but not the fundamentals of where the money goes, which is still television advertising, conventional print advertising. What's Lego's attitudes to those traditional mechanisms of awareness, TV and print? Is your budget still the same, or is that something that's changing? I
think we've increased our budgets, as I understand, but I'm not the right person to answer that question. I think but just twisting it a little bit, Charlie, here, does it mean that if we have a platform like Kuso that will fire all the designers? No. It's still a small part of our business, but we're exploring. And it's all about exploring so you're ready for the big shift. And it's not, I don't think you change your company in a day and a week or a night unless you're really threatened. So it's about figuring out how can these play key parts in your overall strategy. And things should be aligned. It shouldn't be everybody going rogue and going in every direction. It is about making sure that it creates value for the consumer and for the company. We don't do things that's just purely for the consumer or purely for the company. It needs to be a win-win both ways, or else it doesn't really make sense.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you so much.
Peter Espersen from Lego. Thank you very much. Fantastic insights.